everyone, this is the Children's Corner Pattern Mary D, the non-smocked version. It's super duper easy and it's a wonderful project for a beginner and lends many different embellishment opportunities. If you don't know, Mary D was recently revised this past October 2016, somewhere around there, and I will link where I got mine down below. So to begin, you'll cut out 2 bodice front pieces on the fold. One of these will be used as the lining. Then cut out 4 bodice back pieces, and 2 of these will be used as the lining. Then cut out the skirt. So now if your fabric rips, you're definitely going to want to rip it. And you can see I measured the length given by the pattern pieces, and then I cut a slit where that measurement is on my fabric so I can rip it. Then I cut off the selvage edge before measuring the width and using the same rotary straight edge setup to cut that off. I repeat using the same concept to cut out the entire skirt, and you'll have 1 big piece for the front skirt and 2 smaller pieces for the skirt backs. Also, if you're working with some sort of stripe or design that needs matching up, be cautious of that as you cut out your skirts so the design will come together when you sew your side seams. In my case, I'm using dotted Swiss and I want the dots to line up, and I will get into that more later on. So you'll gather your skirt top for the skirt front as well as the skirt backs. I used 2 rows of gather stitches, one on either side of where the permanent stitches will go later on, and then you can set those pieces aside. Now this step is optional, but if you have lightweight fabric, then you may want to interface one of the pieces, and I'm using this gorgeous lightweight dotted Swiss, so I interface the front bodice piece as well as the back pieces, and I don't worry about interfacing the lining pieces. I'm using baby interfacing, and I will link that down below. It's from Farmhouse, and Farmhouse also carries the German interfacing as well, and while it is very, very nice, it is also more expensive, and I like the baby interfacing just fine, so that works for me. Anywho, if you want to put some piping in, do that now before attaching the skirt to the bodice piece. Now it's an optional step, obviously. Regardless of the piping, you'll match up the gather skirt front piece to the bodice piece with right sides together. Take that to your machine and stitch it in place. I use 1/2-inch seam allowances. Then you can take out your gather threads and iron that down. If you have something with stripes or whatnot, you may want to look over your seam to make sure the design is lined up nicely, and this would be the opportunity to fix any deviation. Trust me, it happens to all of us. I got lucky with this one, having it lined up pretty nicely, but sometimes I gotta grab that seam ripper and do a little bit of work on those deviations. You know what I'm talking about. Anywho, before you can put the skirt back to the bodice back, you'll have to finish one edge of the skirt first. You'll take the edge that will be overlapping in the back of the dress and turn it about 1/4 inch and then stitch along that. Then turn it again about 1 inch and iron that in place. Now repeat the same process of attaching the bodice and skirt back pieces. Interfacing if applicable, gathering, stitching, you get the drill. The only difference is you're going to have about 1/2 inch of the bodice back overhanging the skirt, and this is overlapping the finished edge of the skirt. I hope all of that is making sense. Basically, the skirt edge is already finished and you're leaving the overlap of the back piece so you have some seam allowance to sew into and finish the bodice edge. And if this is not making sense, just keep watching. I promise I will bring you back. So once you pull out those gather threads and iron the seam up, then you can attach the front pieces to the back pieces at the shoulder seam. I just used regular seams, 1/2 inch seam allowance, and you can join your lining pieces at the shoulder seams too. Then fold the bottom edge of your lining up about 1/2 inch and iron that in place. This is going to provide a way to enclose the skirt seam later on. Now pin the lining to the bodice with the right sides together. Now I started to pin at the shoulder seams and then I worked my way out. And you're going to sew from one underarm to the other, but not down the side of the dress. You'll want to leave that open. Then you'll sew from one back of the bodice edge to the other edge. And that's where this 1/2 inch overlap that I was talking about earlier is coming into play. You'll want to sew as collinear to the finished skirt edge as possible so the 2 sections are flush. And you can put your needle down to turn that corner area when you sew up to it. Once you sew around the neckline, you'll come back to the other edge and again sew as collinear as you can with the finished edge of the skirt. That way everything will be flushed, nice, neat, and tidy. So at this point, you'll have the sides open and the backs together. And you can clip the corner of the back sections and clip around the curves of the armholes and neckline. Then you'll pull the back sections through, and this will turn them right sides out and finish the armhole area as well as the neck hole all in one fell swoop. Once both sides are turned, take a good ironing to the bodice area. It will look like a hot mess until you iron everything really well. Then you can use your scissors to push the corners out so they form a pretty point. So now you're going to sew the side seams together. You'll pull the lining away from the bodice area, keeping the folded edge intact on the lining. You want to keep that folded edge down since you're going to use that to sew later on. You can see here both the sides are together with the fold of the lining section still folded over. And then I took this to my machine and sewed it together using French seams. And I have a detailed video on how to do French seams that I'll link below. Once you iron that flat, you can move on to the hem of the dress. I iron about a 1/2 inch all the way around the dress. Now normally I measure, but since I'm using dotted Swiss, I was able just to use the dots to guide me. Then I folded and pinned up about 3 inches all the way around. And since this is really wonderful fabric, I sewed the hemline in place by hand. Now I did do another version of the Mary D that's more casual fabric, and I sewed that by machine. All these finishes are up to you. Like I say, it's sewing, you do you. So when I got done with this dress, I looked at it and I thought, oh darn, I should have added some light pink piping. And now I didn't want to undo the dress, so I crocheted some lace edging onto it instead. It's kind of a different look, and I have a video on how I did that. So I put fake snap buttons, and now that's my favorite way to do closed garments at this age. So you can use the snaps but have the look of buttons. These babies are so wiggly giggly at this age, you know. Any rate, and then the dress was complete after I whip stitched the lining down. So here is 6-month Audrey and the 6-month sizing of Mary D. And I'll add her measurements after nap time is over. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them. As always, I appreciate y'all for watching and I hope to catch y'all next time.